Okay, the second conic we're going to talk about in this unit is called the ellipse. And the ellipse, just like the parabola, has parts of the graph that need to be on there. The first part of the graph we're going to talk about are the endpoints of the axis that's the longest. And the endpoints of the axis that's the longest are called your vertex. Because it's more than one, they're called your vertices. So these are the endpoints of what we're going to call the major axis because it's the direction of the ellipse. The opposite direction is going to be called your minor axis, and these endpoints are called your co-vertex or your co-vertices. So that's your co-vertex above, and you have a co-vertex below. And if my ellipse went this way, then my major axis would be this, and my minor axis would go the other way. So again, your major axis, the big axis right here, one that goes in the direction of the ellipse. And your minor axis is the smaller one, and it goes in the opposite way. This point right here in the middle is called the center. And these points that are on the inside of your vertex is called your focus. Plural is called the foci. Okay, so one more time. The point in the middle is called the center. Your major axis is the longest axis. And on your major axis, you'll find your vertex and your focus. Your minor axis is the smaller axis. And on the endpoints of that, you'll find your co-vertex. The official definition of an ellipse is a collection of all points in the plane with a sum whose distance from two fixed points is called the foci. So when we have the parabola, we just had one fixed point. When we have the ellipse, you'll notice that we have two. We're going to have two types of ellipses. We're going to have a horizontal ellipse and we're going to have a vertical ellipse. The first one we're going to talk about is the horizontal. For the horizontal, the equation will look like this. Where A is bigger than B. So whenever you're trying to figure out if it's horizontal and it's vertical, you look at both the denominators, and whatever number is bigger, and we're always going to say A is bigger, wherever the A is, wherever the bigger number is, you're going to look above it. If you have an X, it's going to go horizontal. If the A, the bigger number, happened to be under the Y, it would go vertical. When you're doing an ellipse, just like when you're doing a parabola, the H and the K are going to give you your center. So because they're in parentheses, you're always going to do the opposite. Your A is going to give you your vertex. Your B is going to give you your co-vertex. Now we're going to do a vertical ellipse. Remember what I just said. Wherever A is, it's going to tell me whether it's horizontal or it's vertical. So since this one is vertical, this time the bigger number, the A, will be under the Y, and the smaller number will be under the X. If you'll also notice for both of these, the horizontal and the vertical, they both are going to have a plus sign in the middle for an ellipse, and they're both going to equal 1. Anytime it doesn't equal 1, we're going to make the equation equal 1. And if it's not a plus sign and it happens to be a minus sign, then it's not going to be an ellipse. It's most likely going to be a hyperbola. A couple other things we need to know about ellipses is in order to find all of our missing parts, sometimes they don't give us the equation and they give us pieces. When that happens, we're going to use this equation, b squared equals a squared minus c squared. That'll help me find my c. We also need to remember that a is always bigger than b, like I said before. The center is always going to be h comma k. The length of the major axis is always going to be double the a. The length of the minor axis is going to be double the b. A couple of other things we need to make note of is A is going to be the distance from the center to the endpoints of the major axis. B is the distance from the center to the endpoints of the minor axis. So A is always going to help me with my major axis. B is always going to help me with the minor axis. On the major axis, we're going to find the vertex. On the minor axis, we're going to find our covertex. C is the distance from the center to a focus. So when we're trying to find the focus, we need our letter C. The focus will always lie on the major axis. It's kind of just a hint. If you're ever trying to figure out, hey, which way does the ellipse go? Well, if the focus are going left and right, then it's going to be a horizontal. If the focus are going up and down, then the ellipse will be a vertical. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a couple of examples. They're really not very hard, it's just a matter of getting used to the formulas. So example 1 says, find an equation of an ellipse with the center at the origin. So because we're at the origin, just like with the parabolas, we're not going to need any parentheses because we're going to be at the origin. One of the focus is at 3, 0, and then we have a vertex at -4, 0. They want me to find the equation, and they want me to graph. So just like the parabola, I like to graph them first. So they said we had a center at the origin. They said I had a focus at 3, 0. If I have a focus at 3, 0, I have another focus at -3, 0. So there's a focus, there's a focus. They also told me I had a vertex at -4, 0. So if I have a vertex at -4, 0, I'm going to have another one at +4, 0. Alright, so in those specifics and those additionals, we said that the focus and the vertex are going to lie on the major axis. So I know right now that this is going to be a horizontal ellipse. And I know I don't need parentheses, so I'm going to have x squared over something plus y squared over something equals 1. I know A is the distance from the center to the vertex. So this distance from here to here is 4. And A is going to go under the x because it's horizontal. But it's not A under here. The formula said it's A squared. So 4 squared is 16. Right here is where my B goes, or my B squared. And they didn't give me B. They told me that A was equal to 4. And they told me that B was equal to 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that equation where it said B squared equals A squared minus C squared and solve. Actually, that's not B. I'm sorry, that's C. The C is for your focus. And I'm going to go solve for my B. So B squared equals A squared minus C squared. So B squared equals 16 minus 9. So B squared equals 7. Now to write the equation, I don't need B, I need B squared. To do the graph, I need to know what B is. So B is the square root of 7. Now the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 9 is 3, so this is going to be somewhere between 2 and 3. So from the focus, I'm going to go up a little above 2, and I'm going to go down a little below 2. And then I'm going to connect the endpoints to get my ellipse. It kind of looks like a football. But there's my horizontal ellipse. Okay, let's go do another example. Again, they're not hard, it's a matter of doing them. So example 2. It says x squared over 25 plus y squared over 9. When they give you the equation, the first thing you want to do is find the biggest denominator, which is right here. That means this is horizontal because it's under the x. Okay, remember this is always a squared. The bigger number is a squared, the smaller number is b squared. So if 25 is a squared, then a is 5. If 9 is b squared, then b is 3. To find the focus and the vertices, I'm going to start with the graph. So because there are no parentheses, I know my center is 0, 0. This is going to be a horizontal ellipse, and I'm going to go 5 in the x direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the center to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the center to the left. Then I'm going to go my b direction with in the y direction. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it looks like I have a horizontal ellipse, just like I thought. So I can tell what my vertices are. I've got one at 5, 0, and I've got another one at negative 5, 0. To find the focus, I need my c, so I'm going to need to use the formula b squared equals a squared minus c squared. So b squared is 9, a squared is 25. I'm going to go solve, so I'm going to subtract 25 and I'm going to get negative 16 equals negative c squared. So the square, I'm going to divide by negative 1 and square root, and the square root of 16 is 4. So I'm going to go left and right 4 to get my focus. So that meant I went 4, 0, and negative 4, 0. Okay, so one more time. A squared is always the bigger number, and A is going to tell you the distance to your vertex. B squared is the smaller number, and it's going to give you the distance to the co-vertex. In order to get your focus, you need C, and you're going to use this formula right here to find C. Okay, let's go do another example. On this particular example, they want me to do exactly what I did in example 2, but this does not equal 1. And earlier I said that if it doesn't equal 1, we have to make it equal 1. Well, the only way to make this equal 1 is to divide everything by 9. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. So 9 divided by 9 is going to give me x squared. Y squared over 9 is going to give me y squared over 9 equals 1. Now, if you want them to both have fractions, you simply go put this over 1. Remember, your biggest number is going to give you your a squared. So my biggest number here happens to be the 9. So because it's under the y, this one is going to be vertical. So if this is a squared, that means a is 3. Your smaller number is your b squared, so b is 1. Again, just like earlier, I'm going to start with a graph. There are no parentheses, so my center is at 0, 0. My a is 3, but I'm going to go 3 up because it's vertical, and 3 down. Okay, my b is 1, so I'm going to go 1 to the right, and 1 to the left. I'm going to draw my ellipse. So my vertices were at 0, 3, and 0, negative 3. In order to finish the problem, I need to go find my c. So I'm going to use the same formula again. So b squared is 1, a squared is 9, minus c squared. So I'm going to subtract, and I get negative 8 equals negative c squared. So c squared equals 8, so c is the square root of 8. Again, the square root of 9 is 3, so this is going to be a little less than 3, but more than 2. So I'm going to go up more than 2, focus, and I'm going to go down more than 2. So when I go write what my focus is, it's an up and down movement, so it's going to be 0, comma, remember 8 simplifies into 2 square roots of 2. So I'm going to have 2 square root of 2 above, and I'm going to have 2 square root of 2 above, and I'm going to have 2 square root of 2 below. And there we go. Alright, number 4, we're going to give you some information, and I'm going to see if I can get my equation and graph it. So find the equation of ellipse having a focus at 0, 2. So if I have a focus at 0, 2, and a vertice at 0, negative 3. Focus, vertice. Okay, so I can tell right now that because my focus and my vertex are going up and down that this is going to be a vertical. I can also tell, because I gave you my other vertice at 0, 3, the middle of these two is going to be 0, 0, so I don't need any parentheses. Okay. I went from the center up 3 to one vertex and down 3 to another vertex. That means my a is 3, so my a squared is 9. And because it's going up and down, it needs to go under the y. I don't know what a is, but I do know my focus. So if I know my focus, I know that c is equal to 2. So again, we're going back to that formula. B squared equals A squared minus C squared. So I don't know B, but I do know A squared is 9 minus C is 2, so 2 squared is 4. So B squared equals 5, so that's what goes under here. To do the graph, I need the square root of 5. I know the square root of 4 is 2, so I need to go a little bit more than 2, so a little more than 2 to the right, a little more than 2 to the left, and I'm going to go connect. There you go. Example 5 is the same type of example. They want me to find the equation, they want me to graph, given some information. They tell me the center this time is at 2, negative 3. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There's my center, so I'm going to need parentheses this time. And you always write with the opposite. So the opposite of 2 is minus 2. The opposite of negative 3 is plus 3. And I know it's going to equal 1, and I know a plus sign has to go in the middle. So all I need now is my A and my B, and I need to figure out which direction it's going. So they tell me the center is at 2, negative 3, and they tell me one of the focuses is at 3, negative 3. So there's a focus. So now I can tell that my parabola is going left and right, and I also know just by graphing that, the distance from the center to the focus is 1. So C is 1. They tell me that one of the vertices is at 5, negative 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's a vertex. And the distance from the center to the vertex is 1, 2, 3. So A equals 3. So if A is 3, and I know it's going left and right, 3 squared is 9. I know C is 1, so I'm going to solve to go get my B. So B squared equals A squared minus C squared. So B squared equals 9 minus 1. So B squared equals 8. So that's what goes here. Now I have my equation. I'm going to go finish my graph. So my focus was 1 to the right. So I'm going to go 1 to the left to get my other focus. My vertex was 3 to the right. So I'm going to go 3 left. So 1, 2, 3 to get my other vertex. To get my co-vertex, my B, I'm going to go up and down the square root of 8. The square root of 8 simplifies to 2 square roots of 2. So I'm going to go from the center a little more than 2 and a little more than 2 the other way. And there's my ellipse. Alright, last one we're going to do is one where we have to complete the square. So when you're completing the square for the ellipse, the first thing you're going to do is put all your x's together, and then you're going to put all your y's together. So my x's, I have 4x squared minus 8x. And then I'm going to go put my y's together. I've got y squared plus 4y. And then this term that doesn't have an x or a y, I'm going to move to the other side. So it moves over, becomes a negative 4. Now when you complete the square, your squared term has to be a 1. So the first thing I'm going to do to these two terms is I'm going to pull out a 4. So I get x squared minus 2x plus something. I'm going to leave some space. This is where I'm going to complete the square. Now I'm going to do my y's. Well, the y's have a 1x squared. So I'm going to have y squared plus 4y plus something equals negative 4. Okay, from there we're going to use what we talked about the other day, where you go to your middle term, you take half of it, and you square it. So half of negative 2 is negative 1, and negative 1 squared is 1. And whatever you do to the left side, you have to do the right side. Well, it looks like I added 1, but I really didn't add 1. I added 4 times 1, so I added 4. Come back over here. Half of 4 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. This time there's no number out here, so I truly did just add 4. Okay, so now we're going to go do our perfect squares. And if I come over here, negative 4 plus 4 plus 4 is just 4, because 2 of those 4s cancel. right here, what factors of 1 add up to -2? -1 and -1. What factors of 4 add up to 4? +2 and +2. Okay, so we're almost done. The last thing I have to do is make this equal 1. So I'm going to divide everything by 4. These two 4's are going to cancel, and I'm going to have x minus 1 squared over 1. Nothing cancels for the next one. I get y plus 2 squared over 4 equals 1. Okay, so from here we're back to what we did earlier today. So we're going to find the biggest number on the bottom, which is 4. And that's going to tell me the direction, and it's also going to tell me my a. So because it's under the y, it's going to be vertical. Because this is a squared and it's 4, a is 2. The smaller number is your b squared. So if this is b squared, b is 1. From here, I'm going to go graph it so I can find all my missing information. So I'm going to have a center at 1, -2. There's my center. My a is 2, and it's vertical, so I'm going to go up 2. So 1, 2. So I'm going to have a vertex right there on the x-axis. I'm going to go down 2, 1, 2. There's my second vertex. I'm going to go right 1 from the center, and I go left 1 from the center, so also on the y-axis. So my vertices were 1, 0, and 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, -4. Okay, all I have to find out now are my focus. So we need this c. So we're going to use that formula, b squared equals a squared minus c squared. Remember, you wrote this formula on your foldable for your assessment, so you're going to know to use this one every time you see an ellipse. So b squared is 1, a squared is 4, minus c squared. It's going to give me -3 equals -c squared. So c equals the square root of 3. Okay, well, square root of 3. So I'm going to go left and right the square root of 3 from the center. I'm sorry, up and down. So this point right here is -2, and I'm going to go up the square root of 3 and down the square root of 3. But I started at the 2. The y is my 2, so I have 1, comma, 2 square root of 3. It's going to send me up. And then I have 1, comma, I'm going to go down 2 square root of 3, so 2 minus the square root of 3. It's a little plus right there. Sorry, I forgot my plus. So from here, I went up the square root of 3, and I went down the square root of 3. Okay, and that will get us through my ellipses. And what you'll do now is you'll work on the homework and put your answers in Google Classroom. Good luck with that. Ask me questions if you have any.